some really good, there we go. The recording just started. So hopefully you'll have some really good skills by the end of the training to be able to either better utilize your self-care or to help yourself in situations when you need to. And it's always good to have tools in your toolbox. So let me share my training and we'll go from there. All right, everybody see that? Okay, you can give me a thumbs up or a shaka sign. That would be perfect. I want to just get one more part straightened out. All right, so the title today is Raising Awareness for Suicide Prevention and Substance Use for Farmers and First Responders. I know it's a bit of a combined group, but we're happy to be able to do this. And I want to thank Tal and Renee for putting this together, putting me together with this, because it's something I'm very passionate about. Because even though I am retired, I'm still doing mental health trainings and still consulting with some other groups. So what we're hoping to do is to give you what to look for today, right? And then how to help, right? Two important things. So just to start the training, I just want to let you know that suicide is really a profound loss. And many of us have been touched by suicide at different points in our lives, some more closely than others. If you think about a pebble dropping into a pond and you start to see the rings go out from there, obviously in the center, that's the family, right? The mother, the father, the siblings. From there, it goes out maybe to the cousins, to the neighbors, to the friends. From there to maybe the coworkers or, neighbors in the community and on and on and on as it goes on. And it could be even, the cashier at Minute Stop who you stop by once in a while and grab a musubi and they know who you are. So it really does affect us all. And when we talk about it, it brings up personal experiences and mixed emotions for all of us. So while we're going to discuss and we're talking about today, and we'll do some scenarios as we work later into the conversation. If you do have any personal stories about it, I would ask you just not to share it with the group because we never know what level everyone's mental health is at, and we don't want to trigger anybody into possibly thinking about it. So just want to keep everybody safe. And we also need to remember that we need to be sensitive to survivors of suicide loss. And these are the folks or the loved ones and people who have taken their life. And there's also attempt survivors that may be in here as well. So, or just somebody who might be struggling with their mental health. We just want to look out for each other and be careful of that. And it's a really good way to kind of set this training up. So just the overview on what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about current statistics, right? For farmers and first responders. I know many of you have had some kind of introduction or taken other courses in possible suicide prevention, maybe some of the ones mentioned. This is just going to be a reminder in the first few slides, talking about the risk factors and then some tools to help you build resilience or self-care. I'm also going to give you some tools how to handle situations at different stress levels. And actually, towards the end, there'll be some tools that you can use immediately if you need to calm down, right? If you're just in that 60 to 100 range where you're like, everything's just, nothing's working. And there'll be a couple tools with that as well. And these are just great little assets that we all have and can learn. So the current stats, I was doing my research on, I saw that, the suicide risk for farmers is 3.5 times higher than the general population. And that, of course, is because the different stress levels that you all have. And I've taken this through the National Rural Health Association, where I did some research there as well. Also found out that, 48% of younger farmers in Hawaii have actually said they have felt depressed at some time or the others. And 14% of them have actually experienced depression. When I went to go look for law enforcement, I went to the CDC and took their violent death report that they have. The CDC has many kind of reports, either regarding mental health, physical health, etc. So we found that suicide rates for first responders are at about 1% of the US population. Now, the regular suicide rate for somebody is much lower than that because we have a 380 plus million people in this country. A little bit higher in Hawaii, possibly because we're much less people here. However, it's all based on 100,000 people per area. So we found that 58% of law enforcement officers, 21% of firefighters, and 18% of EMS providers is the breakdown of that 1%. So some other stats that I saw when I was looking for first responders, I saw that police officers are 54% more likely to die by suicide than the average person. And there's a big difference, as many of you know, about thinking about suicide and actually taking your life. The amount of people that actually take their life is much less than those who think about it. And the good thing is prevention can be used any place from the time of thinking about it, even to when somebody's made a plan and is ready to do it. You can still be of assistance. 50% of firefighters have had thoughts of suicide at this point in their career as well. And we know that law enforcement officers have a different kind of trauma that most of us don't have, right? They are often called into emergency situations, whether it be a car accident, perhaps a large fire where it affects the entire community, like the Maui wildfires back in 2023, or even a hurricane that can happen within a community. Everybody's on alert, even the people like yourselves, the farmers, regular community, everybody is on high alert. So trauma can really be a big factor. And if that trauma is not treated somehow through self-care and gaining coping skills regarding it, that trauma can hang around for us. And that's what raises the risk for suicide, not just for them, but for many of us. So we know that, you folks as farmers, you deal with a lot of stress, long hours of physically demanding work. You never know what's going to happen with the weather, uncontrollable weather. And now we're experiencing climate change. I've lived on Maui for 48 years. I grew up on the East Coast in the Finger Lakes area, and there's a lot of farms, a lot of vineyards there. My brother actually owned a ranch south of Buffalo, New York, about 45 acres, and my sister, her and her husband Tom, owned a farm just outside of where we were in Auburn, New York, about 250 acres. And I know the kind of hard work that we do because Tom would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go work on the farm until 7:30 and then go ahead and work a full-time job and then come back to work on the farm later that evening. And on the East Coast, it stays light out till 9 o'clock, but that's a lot of work, right? It really is. The health conditions of your animals, right? That's social isolation. You might not have any next door neighbors, but it really depends on how much you can connect with them to stay connected. But if you're not, you're really out there on your own. You might have certain times when you go to a farmer's market, maybe, or 4-H meeting or something like that, where you connect with your other friends, or maybe your family stops over. But social isolation can be real. And of course, the financial stress, right? Things cost so much. The price is always changing. And now there's the tariffs, and you don't even know, am I going to be able to send the products to where I can sell them, especially if you're doing a lot for exports. All that stuff can build up. So what we're hoping to do today is to give you some ways to be able to deal with that better on a day-to-day basis. First responders and stress, right? As I mentioned earlier, that exposure to traumatic events, witnessing human suffering, psychological trauma, right? If you're not trying to work on what you've seen and be able to talk about it and share about it, either with other officers or firefighters or EMS personnel, or be able to see a counselor, right, that can stay with you. And it just raises the risk for, PTSD. Sleep deprivation, God knows, however, in an emergency, how long you're going to be up and stay out there. You never know what time of the night the fire alarm might ring. Even if you're on a shift for a police force, it's generally a 12-hour shift these days because there's not as many officers right? And so the burnout factor can be high. And the reason the burnout factor can be high and even higher in some respects is things have gotten worse, especially for farmers, but the emergencies seem to be more frequent, um, whether that's climate change or whatever that might be. And, you know, if you're not utilizing tools to try and help you deal with it, right? And you keep holding on to that stress for days and days, weeks and weeks, and then years, and you come to that point of burnout. There's a lack of support and resources. I know there's not a great deal of counseling support and whatnot in Hawaii. I am going to give you one really good tool today at the end of the training that you're going to be able to utilize regardless of who you are, especially knowing what stigma is, right? Stigma is that attitude like we all have is like, no, I don't need your help. I can handle this. I got this. I'm a farmer. I'm a first responder. I know what I've been doing. I know how to handle this stuff, right? We all have that pride in us. I know my generation, and I'm 72 years old. So I grew up with like my dad always said, if you can't do it by yourself, it's not worth doing. Okay. So that concept of asking for help can be sometimes unfamiliar, but you think about it. If you broke your arm, you're not going to put it in a cast yourself. You're going to go to a doctor. If your car breaks down, especially with the computers these days and everything running in it, if it's fairly new, you're not going to be able to fix it on your own. You need a mechanic. Same way, if you got problems with your thinking, you're feeling like you might be depressed or sad or just out of sorts, asking for help is a sign of strength and not weakness. So please, please, please reach out. Help is there, might take a little bit, but there's some good emergency contacts that will give you as well. So the basic effects on your mental health, and this goes for both. I mean, these are just, any kind of stress, right? If it's held on to and not let go of, increases the stress in your life. So it increases your anxiety. If you're feeling sad or just anxious for more than 2 weeks and you're just feeling very despondent, there's a possibility that you might be itching towards depression. Again, with the lack of support, but I'm going to give you some places to call today where you can hopefully get in to see them. But even that connection with other people, your neighbors, your friends, whoever that might be, that's a really important tool to help take care of yourself and to help you manage your stress level. I think everybody's really familiar with, the psychological effects of stress, right? Excessive worry, agitation, I'm not able to concentrate. I know there's this stress here, I'm just going to avoid the problem and just go through it, right? When we have that kind of stress, it affects us physically as well. So we know that a lot of times we have stomach pains. Our stomach and our brain are connected. There's a lot of evidence on that, and I'm not going to go into it. But I can tell you that when you're really stressed out, you start to have stomach aches. They start to hurt. You're not be able to sleep regularly. And in some severe cases, if you noticed a person who had shortness of breath, chest pain, couldn't really talk about what was going on, what do you think that might be? What do you think that might be? If you just saw somebody like that, and you can share in the chat if you like, what do you think those symptoms might tell you something's going on with this person? And I'll just let you pop it in there. Anyone, put it in there. What do you think that if you ran into somebody, shortness of breath, grabbing their chest, having a hard time to breathe, yeah, possibly stroke, heart attack, maybe. Right, and that's a great one, Renee. Anxiety attack too, panic attack. Yeah, you guys are on it like Bluebonnet here. You're so good. Yeah, it could be one or the other. And that's how stress affects us, right? It raises the risk of suicide. But if you can't let go of stress, your brain doesn't know how to do it sometimes. I'm going to give you a quick example of stress in an emergency situation or letting go of it just on a day-to-day. So let's think back to our caveman brothers and sisters, right? Years ago, okay? if they're out hunting for food and they find like a deer or they find something and they kill it and they're going to bring it back for the family, okay? Now they spy a saber-toothed tiger out of the corner of their eye who wants to make them their lunch, who wants to make you their lunch. So when we come into extremely stressful situations, we go to flight, fight, or freeze. That's a body, that's the way our brain works. When you go into flight, right, you start to run away. What happens in your body is what your brain does for your body is it starts to pull all the blood back from your body to protect your brain and your heart, your two most important organs. That makes you feel stronger physically, makes you run faster. You're at that high level and you're just running and get away from that saber-toothed tiger. Now you get to the place where you're safe and your body starts to calm down. And your brain tells your body, okay, the danger is over. All that blood starts to go back to all those other parts of the body. Your stress level, your heart level starts to go down. When we have daily stress in our lives, all right, we have that stress and we just keep thinking about it. And the next day we keep thinking about it again. And day to day we keep thinking about it and it increases. You're not telling your body, right? Your brain's not telling your body how to get rid of it because you haven't given it permission. But if you start to learn how to do self-care or coping skills or distress tolerance skills, these are ways your body will know that if you do some kind of daily self-care, it's going to release some of these feelings. Doesn't mean that that's not going to be there again the next day, but at least you have a tool to be able to release those feelings on a daily basis and then be able to utilize them for the future. Just a little tip if you want to learn it. So, okay. All right. Somehow my screen, there we go. My screen just froze for a second. So these are the warning signs for suicide. I know many of you know them. I'm just going to go through them quickly. Um, you know, when we use alcohol or drugs on a consistent basis, if we start to misuse it, right, then we can increase the risk for suicide. And I'm not talking about, using, let's say, substances or alcohol, you know, to help you, right? Because there's a lot of people who believe that that is a way to help yourself, but misuse of that is going to really raise the risk for your suicide. It's going to affect your mental health conditions, and there's certain mental health conditions when you have them, it raises the risk. You notice people withdrawing from social activities, they're isolating, they're feeling hopeless. They don't have anything good to say. They just feel despondent. Really clear warning signs if they start talking about suicide or talking about taking their life, or feeling trapped. Sometimes when you have that, a lot of problems piled up, that light at the end of the tunnel gets smaller. And what you need to do is realize that, some people are very close to maybe making a plan and attempting suicide at that point. One of the ways you can maybe see about that is they appear to have a sudden change in improvement. So it's good to have a conversation with a friend or family member at that point and ask them, you seem like everything's going okay now the last few days. Have you been seeing a therapist? Have you been seeing whatever? Because if they're not, right, then it could be that they've just made a plan and they know when they're going to take their life. And now all that stress is gone and relieved, especially in conjunction with giving away prized possessions. This is a really clear indication they're giving away those prized possessions to say goodbye to the people that they love. Always be willing to just ask clearly and plainly, are you thinking of taking your life? Are you thinking about suicide? And then utilize the skills that you already have from your previous trainings to be able to help them. So what is passive suicidal ideation? Now, Tara and I talked about this and brought this up. And so passive suicidal ideation is really just thinking about suicide, or having thoughts, some of these things like sayings in your life, I wish I was never born, I hope I get in a car crash, my family really would be better off without me. And I go into bed tonight and I'm always waking up in the morning, wish I didn't. Actually about 6% of the population experience this kind of passive suicidal ideation a year. and about 10% of the general population have had passive suicidal ideation at some point in their life. It could be affected because of grief and loss that's led to this. That significance of maybe just wanting not to be here anymore and being with a loved one, significant changes in your job or, long-term relationship. They can all trigger these passive suicidal ideation thoughts. And, sometimes these transient thoughts, right, lead to wanting escape from them. And this is where we have to really be careful because, sometimes we've heard, oh God, I might as well just kill myself when things get bad. And then you seem fine the next day. We really need to take, if you're seeing this or experiencing over time with friends or family, we really need to take it seriously, because especially if it starts to interfere with our daily living or our ability to live, to laugh, and to love, right? That's when we can see that maybe this person needs some assistance, right? So it's always a good idea to check in. Remember, the presence of these risk factors right here tell you that passive suicidal ideation, while they're not necessarily thinking about it now, over time, that could continue into the suicidal ideation was when things get worse, they might start making a plan. So again, utilize your skills, utilize your training, have that conversation with them and help them at that point. Now, we're going to do a question here in a minute, but before we do that, I just want to finish up with this slide. So, protective factors, all right? This is the front end of suicide prevention. Protective factors are the things you can do for yourself on a daily basis to almost insulate you from suicidal ideation. The more you take care of yourself, the more you can find ways to love yourself, right? To help yourself, the better off you're going to be. And believe me, I was not a person who did much of this for much of my life until my own problems, began to arise with overuse of substances. And when I finally reached out, I learned a lot about these, right? I learned about different ways to take care of myself. So, going to bed at the same time, getting up at the same time, those are ways you can help yourself, right? Your body loves consistency. And so if you get that 6 or 7 hours, whatever it is that you need of sleep, you're going to be okay. Feeling connected to your family and your surrounding community, limiting like the access to lethal means. So, many of you might have a weapon of some kind or whatever. So if you have a gun lock, if you have a place that it's going to take a little bit to get to, then that will help you, especially if you get to the point of thinking about making a plan. Cultural and spiritual beliefs are all different for many people. Sometimes you can turn to those, whether it's religious, whether it's spiritual, whatever it might be, right? Those ways are like that we take that stuff in and we make ourselves feel good. Even though I don't practice religion, I love going into churches every once in a while and just sitting there and listening to the quiet and just, thinking about the calmness and that there is something greater than me. And then building resilience. And that's what self-care is all about. We're going to talk about that down the road in a couple slides. And lastly, utilizing these self-care and coping skills. Okay. These are ways that we can help each other. So I'm going to stop the share for a little bit. And then I think I have something here. So I want to do something and just state this. And then I want, if any of you could just pop in the chat what your thoughts are, what you think about it, or you can unmute. I'm okay with any of that. So I know that a lot of people use substances or drink, maybe on a daily basis to use it as a coping skill. Okay. Now, I'm not here to judge anybody about anything. I want you to know that. I was a person for many years who used that, many years. I'm not going to advocate for you to change or to quit drinking or do any of these things, right? Unless, of course, you're to the point where maybe you're having a problem with it, and you'll know if that happens. But there's many reasons why people just want to, after work or whatever, just have a couple beers with friends or a couple drinks. You're getting high, you start to relax some of those problems that have been going on during the day. Okay, I can actually let those go. But when you use alcohol or drugs, what's actually going on is that it's going to temporarily mask your stress, or your physical pain and make you feel less anxious or overwhelmed. However, use on a continuing basis can raise the risk. And I'm not saying that's going to happen for everyone. There's some people that get done with work and actually have a six pack every night and be fine and never have a problem with it. And there's others that might start to get a problem with it. But a lot of times we do this because we don't have any other healthy coping mechanisms, or it's just what everyone does. You can't watch a sporting event or anything else on television without seeing tons of ads for beers and whatever. Okay. So, what I'm thinking I want to ask is, do you think, okay, that using alcohol or a substance now and then to help you out is a good way to cope with things? Or do you think that it is not a good way to cope with things? And if you don't think it is, tell me what you think the risks are. And just again, use the chat. No need to be shy. Okay, self-medicated, but not on that is safe. Okay, leads to artificial happiness. All right, it's a negative way, will increase depression and anxiety. Personally, I don't think it helps me because there's an avoidant technique that keeps me from dealing with my issues. Yeah, it's not the healthiest mechanism. Helpful, especially in the short run, but obviously not in the long run. No, masking problems. It's not a good way. It's temporary and it's negative long-term effects. Great. Thank you. A lot of good responses there. And like I said, everyone having a couple beers, couple drinks now and then with friends or whatever, nothing wrong with that. But you guys hit the nail on the head because when you keep that use of it, and you're going to know if it's making things worse because when you're self-medicating like this, you're right. It just kind of masks the problem. You're going to still have it all the next day, right? You might even have a hangover with it. But there's certain things that if you can utilize some of the tools we're talking about today, they're going to calm you down. They're going to make you feel much better about yourself, right? At least to be able to let that stress go from the day, because stress and stress built up, we know, is going to raise those risks. So I'm going to talk about things like deep breathing or mindfulness, helping you, maybe utilizing this for previous trauma, or maybe just for your mental health conditions, or maybe you making you feel better physically. Okay, great job. Planting a tree, I'm addicted to doing it and cause stress. I don't get it. Alcohol, that's the only negative or positive. I love planting a tree. How do you know when somebody's drinking pattern is passive suicidal ideation? Oh, good question. So I think is really the more you know somebody, right? Uh, the more possible that you think that they might have uh, something going on with them, especially if you notice there's been a little bit of a change. Okay. Um, So let's do another just before it. Let's do one of these little scenarios, and I'll give you a scenario here. Um, Let me pop it in the chat too, so you can read it. Okay, so I know that many of you um, know the reasons why uh, people want to use substances to uh, solve their problems. That high, getting, feeling euphoric or numb or masking the pain. Um, and So when you have, oh, wait a minute, it's not what I wanted to do. That's what I just talked about. Pardon me. I apologize. Let me just pull up the other slide. I got two lists over here.
So Danielle, I think you said you're gonna do a vignette, and should I break them into groups after you present the vignette? To give an opportunity for folks to,
Sure, yeah. Let me just grab that first and then I'll put it into the chat and then when we do the vignette, we can go into groups and we can talk about that. Okay. So here's the first one. I'll put it in the chat now and then what you can do is break into some groups. And how long do you want to go for, Tal?
10 minutes? For everyone to get in groups, and how many people we have? We have 28, so what, group of four? That'd be seven groups?
Yeah, 4 or 5, I think is
Five,
good.
five groups?
Yeah.
Okay. So where's the vignette? I don't see the vignette.
Oh, I put it in the chat.
Um,
Did you
I don't,
notice?
no, we don't see it in the chat.
Oh, it says meeting group chat.
I don't see it. Does everybody see the chat? Nope, no one's seeing it, Danielle. You want to share the slide?
Sure. I can do that. That's just as
Why
easy.
don't you read the vignette and show the slide, and then I'll.
Okay, sounds good. So you notice recently a change in behavior for a close colleague, a peer, your neighbor, whoever that might be. And this person is usually upbeat and seems distant and aloof. At a social gathering, this person seems to be drinking a lot more than usual. And you wonder whether you should mention this or even bring it up. So what would you do?
This is the one that, yeah.
It's interesting. You can't see the chat. I can see everyone else's.
I just put it in. Is that the same one that you were reading? No,
Yeah.
it's a different one. No, it's a different one.
You've noticed a recent change in behavior, a colleague or friend?
Um, no,
There
I
you
don't
go.
have that one.
I put it in. I put it in again. Can you see that?
Okay,
Thank you, Renee. Thanks, everyone. Sorry for that.
okay, okay. So I'm gonna break everyone into a group.
Sure.
Okay. Um, so 10 minutes. So I'm
Okay.
six.
So you got me joining a specific group. Do you want me to do that or do you want me to
It's
do?
up to you.
Because I can't really leave a group, I think, until I think, coach, instructor, or I mean, a co-host.
I'm gonna.
Then I should be able to go into one group and then go out.
Uh-oh, there's some people who didn't know. Let me see. There's some folks who didn't join. Wanna move.
Are we in one of the groups now?
Um, no. So the folks who are here, they did not join. But each group has at least five or six.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we can leave them on their own and hear what happens when they come back.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Join Daniel Anthony. Yes, there's some folks who haven't joined, including us. That's fine. Everybody else has like six people in their group.
Perfect.
Five, five. Yeah, okay. I actually put one of the vignette that you gave me, I guess it was a different one. Oh, you put the one that I gave you, and then I put the one that you shared.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the
Okay.
one I think that you gave me, and
Right,
then
and then I
two
put the one
others.
that you put up.
Yeah. So
Okay, we'll do the second one. We'll do yours after they come back and share, and we can do yours too.
okay, or we could do, we could do a couple of them at the end too, if you want.
Oh, that's a good idea. So when we bring them back, you go ahead and do the debriefing, what group shared, and then what else do you have on your slides?
Well, I have basically what we're going to do is now we're going to get into the coping part of the training on the
Okay,
slide.
okay,
So I really only have I think it's 8 slides left.
8 slides. Okay.
So, and
Well,
then, in the distress tolerance skills and then the coping skills, they'll be a little bit longer, probably talk about them for maybe 5, 6 minutes each, just to give everybody. That's why if as you're recording it, then you're going to be able to utilize that by hearing my voice and doing those certain skills. And then at the end, we should have at least, my guess is 15, 20 minutes. Hey, that's good to hear.
yeah.
Yeah, it's always good to listen to you guys. Come up with brainstorming. It's
Yeah,
nice.
brainstorming is great. Well, welcome back, everyone. So, I know that Tristan took some notes, and then some other people in different groups might have some notes. So, Tristan, do you want to share your notes from your group? Do you feel comfortable in doing that?
Sure. And sorry, guys, I hit the wrong button and exited the group early. Sorry, group. But yeah, everyone had some good stuff. One was kind of uh asking open-ended questions, kind of not the yes or no's, let them be able to talk things out. And if you notice that maybe they're not opening up to you, maybe you can reach out to a closer friend or family that's closer to them because maybe they don't know you. Another good one was change the environment. Kind of always good to talk over food, maybe go eat or go fishing or golfing. We can share scripture, some spiritual advice, about or that can help. Um, and then just building that pilina um, and togetherness, and even hey, if they're having a beer, have a beer too with them, and maybe they'll be vulnerable in that moment, but later on, always um, follow up after that initial inquiry because it helps build strength that, oh, this person does care about me because they called a week later to see how I was doing.
Yeah, good stuff. Really good stuff. I love that, building that connection, right? Building that connection with that other person. And then even knowing, maybe there is that other person that they feel a little more comfortable with than you to talk about it. And even say, you know, would you like to maybe ask so and so to join us, next time? Because I know that you might not know me very well, but you know them. Being straightforward, honest, like the open-ended questions are great, right? And just trying to avoid the yes, no questions. So good work. Great work. What other groups would like to share? Anybody? No need to be shy.
I'll share.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
So I was actually in this situation. I was sharing with the group that I was actually in a situation like this where we were at a gathering and there was food and there was alcohol. And it was all EMS people. And there's an individual that was drinking a lot more than normal. And so, you know, as far as what to do, it's not so much trying to talk to him. It is somewhat, but a lot of the focus was on just trying to get to slow down or stop the drinking binge. And then it was more focused on trying to get his keys away so he couldn't drive. Because in that moment where they're just drinking and they're going crazy with their drinking, it's kind of hard to talk to them or even reason with them. So really the focus was more on more preventative. you know, so he would be okay in that moment and he would get home safely,
Yeah.
you know,
Good observation, Mark.
and then the conversation, I mean, you know, because there are a lot of colleagues around, you know, people notice, and so there are folks that are closer to this person, and I know they talk to him after the fact when he was sober.
Yeah. I love what you said about wanting to keep that person safe, maybe not having them drive. And especially in a situation like that, because we know what, you know, the possibilities that might have, you know, for that person to maybe drive home. And even if you approach it in a way where you even ask you, are you thinking of driving yourself home? I just you know, you seem like you've had a bit to drink. You know, even if they have attitude like, well, you know, it's my car, it's, you know, I do what I want to do. And if you're honest with the person and tell them, well, come on now, we've worked together for 10, 12 years, or, you know, I would never want to see anything bad happen to you. The only reason I'm mentioning it to you is because, you know, I care about you, and I'd be happy to give you a drive, you know, ride back tomorrow morning. We'll get your car early before work, something like that. But you're right. Sometimes in that situation, if somebody's had a very much, you know, a lot to drink, they're not able to really understand something to get help. Thank you for your observations. Appreciate it. Anybody else? One more, and then we'll do another scenario.
Yeah. In our group, it was brought up about, you know, having a close friend and who, you know, you visit them and it was real life, and, you know, they are making those, um, they're talking about, you know, having like suicide, or talking about maybe, you know, those heavy, you know, are kind of just feeling very depressed, and it's not really even around alcohol or substance. Maybe it's overworked and they're not able to do what would refresh them and fill their cup. You know, they're not able to exercise and do those self-care, and just that feeling of being stuck. But yet the person that they're sharing this with is like, yeah, how do we, sometimes it's hard when you know somebody for years and your relationship, it's like maybe it's just, yeah, I don't know, you just have this long relationship over years where maybe sometimes it's hard to just be like, hey, like, uh, you know, to really, like, what do you say in those people? Like, you kind of, you're just kind of just there listening, but you're like wondering how you should react. So I don't know, that was just kind of like the question is, how can we be there for those friends of us that we've known for years that maybe do struggle with depression, and you go over there and here they are talking about saying some things, and kind of sense that they're feeling stuck, that things won't change, you know, whether like their work schedule and not being able to have do the things that they used to do that would, you know, would help them with their work-life balance.
Thanks, Kim. Appreciate that. You
Yeah.
know, and a lot of times, you know, I think in situations like that, you know, when you start seeing like is that light at the end of the tunnel starts to go down a little bit, and you can see that they've been, you know, they've been feeling depressed. And I like what you talked about when you mentioned self-care, you know, they haven't been refilling their cup, right? Because the saying goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. You always have to keep refilling it. Sometimes even just relating a personal story about yourself, if you have one, when there was a time when you were struggling, and you know what you did to try and help them, and then letting them know that you know you're always going to be there to listen to them. You know, we're good friends. I'm going to be here to talk to you at any time, and I'm really sorry that you're feeling like this. You know, be genuine and honest and empathetic. It's so important because people pick up on honesty. You know, people know when you're not telling the truth, but people really dig honesty. And all those things you said, I just love it, you know, and the more tools that you have, and if you do have that conversation and ask them, you know, move them to get help, because our job is not to solve their problems. Our job is to try and help them get to somebody else who can help them solve their problems. And that's where all the resources come in. Okay. Why don't we do this? I'm going to pop another one in the chat here and I'll read it. And I think we only maybe need 5 minutes for this one, because I want to make sure I get to all the helping slides, and then we can do one more scenario at the end. So here's the second scenario, a little similar. But you tell me, you figure out what can you do to maybe help. So you visit a close friend in their home one weekend, and this friend has a history of depression and maybe self-harm. And they don't seem like they've been doing very well lately. On entering their apartment, you realize that, geez, they haven't cleaned their house in a while, and dishes are all piled up in the sink, and there's laundry piled up, and everything is all dusty. You also notice that your friend seems very distracted and looks like they might not have had any sleep for days. After settling into a conversation, they tell you that their depression has gotten really bad lately, and they're really ashamed for not being able to handle it. And they're getting impatient with dealing with themselves. They're angry at themselves. They're tired of it swinging in and swinging out, the depression going up and down, and at times just consuming all of their life. Your friend just tells you they can't do this anymore, and they don't see any point in continuing if it's going to stay like this for the rest of their life. What do you do? It's kind of a hopelessness one.
Danielle, the last scenario you have is similar to what Mark mentioned. So do you want me to give another one? I can find another one.
Yeah, if you can find one between now and the last one.
Okay, let
'Cause
me
by the
see.
time they come back,
Okay.
we'll probably get to about 20 after.
Okay,
Because I just want to make sure I can demonstrate those skills that are going to really be helping, especially the distress tolerance skills.
okay. Yeah, it'd be nice if there's one that they can apply what you just learned in terms of the distress tolerance skills. Okay, you gotta go find one.
You can tell everybody's had some good training.
You can tell, right?
I know. That's awesome. Keep building skills.
Mhm.
And I think some of these coping skills today will be really good for them.
Yeah, they're looking for, they actually have asked for skills to help themselves and the others. Okay, I've got one.
Good. I'll let you share it
Okay,
into the chat once what I'd like to do is to finish up and then give the resources and all that. And then at the very end, we'll say, well, we just want to end it with one more scenario.
okay,
Now, taking everything in.
okay.
And then please just, send the recording to everybody so they can keep this.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna bring everybody back.
Okay, sounds good.
That was a short one. I hope that wasn't. You're gonna say,
I
oh,
think it's enough time.
okay. So a couple of minutes, allow them to share again? Okay.
Yeah. And then if you want, we could keep everybody just in the group at the end and let
Oh,
people
that's a good
speak
idea.
up.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
That
Okay.
way we can see each other.
Yes.
Here we go.
Yep, they're all back.
Welcome back, everyone. All righty. Do we have some volunteers to talk about what we're going to do here to help our friend in this scenario? You can just unmute and talk to us.
I can go.
How's
So
it?
this is my Tony. So our group was saying that just to be there 100%. Don't leave the person alone. Give a call to people with knowledge on the situation if you're not capable of helping that person with the right information. So there's a lot of hotlines that you can call out, you can reach out to. They can sit there and join together, like confirming to them, saying, like, we're gonna do this together. Let's call together. Let's be there 100% no matter what. Don't, even if you have to go to work, I mean, a day you can call in and a sick day for that person just to save that life. I mean, the life is more important than a day of work. So just be there 100%. Call someone if you have to take them to the emergency room. Pick up yourself, take them to the emergency room, and just be there the 100% for that life. It could not be your friend, it could be your family, it could be whoever. It's just that 100% being there, and trying to let them know that, guess what, things get hard and things get better. Changing their mindset on what's the possibility of a happier ending rather than this ending right here.
Great stuff, Tony. Thank you. Great job, you guys. I love that. Being for them, being there for them 100%, right? Letting them know that you're going to be there for them. And even if you're not too sure on what you might want to do next, if you're just, have that uncomfortability, maybe gosh, what should I do next? Right? You have the resources. And I've done this many times before in person or on my warm helpline when I was at Mental Health America. showing the compassion and the empathy for them, and then telling them, I don't want to give you bad advice, and I think I know that there's others that could help you. So, we could either call 988 together, and I'll be on the phone with you. We'll do a 3-way call if you feel comfortable, and let them know what's going on. Or the crisis line of Hawaii Cares, the same number, and different number, but same place to go to. Or even some people might feel better about texting, and there's the crisis text line, and say, we can text over and someone's going to respond to us right away. That's so important, right? To being there for them and helping them when they're in need for that. That connection, that building of connection. And you really touched on something that just made me think, when we have suicidal thoughts, when we're ready to act on it, we've made that plan and we're ready to act, but we've got that last place where we've reached out for help, that conversation with somebody else. You tell them honestly that, I've had times in my life where, things have been really bad, but they'll get better. They'll change. Things change. Nothing stays the same for all the time. And the great news is that virtually almost everybody who gets help for thinking about suicide will never have those thoughts again. There's that very fractional, less than 1% part where people continue to have it. But for the average person, once they get help and once they learn the coping skills of how to better handle themselves, they're always going to be, they'll have a much better chance of not sliding back to that. And some never slide back to that. Great job. Anybody want to, one more quick one, and then tell us what you did, and then we'll go into finish the rest of the training, because I want to make sure I give you all these skills to use to better handle your stress and anxiety. So one more. Anyone?
I'll go.
Okay,
In
go ahead.
our group, it was more of being straight up and asking the question, are you going to harm yourself? Are you suicidal? And, if that's your friend and a close person, just ask the question.
Yeah. Ask the question. Thank you, Tristan, right? Ask the question directly, right? And try to stay away from the word harm, because sometimes if someone's really thinking of taking their life, they're not thinking of harming or hurting themselves. They're thinking of checking out. They're just in too much pain, because people are in a lot of pain when they're thinking about suicide. So the best way to do it is to say, are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about taking your life? Whatever you're comfortable in doing, okay? And then you go to the next steps. If they say yes, right, ask them if they have a plan, ask if they know when they're going to do it, and then work to talk through that and get them connected right away to help, emergency help. And sometimes you can just call, 911, depending on what's on in your island. Every police force has crisis intervention trainings, and they'll come usually with non-uniform officers. There's a CIT officer, so you can always ask for that as well. So great job, you guys. You really show me you have a lot of knowledge already, but and you're really doing some good stuff here. And I love these breakouts. They just, they're a great way to actually utilize the tools that we have. So going in to finish the training, right? We have different levels of stress in our lives, all right? There's that number 1 level, 0 to 40 on a scale of 100, where if we utilize our skills of self-care, that's generally going to handle things, right? Even if it gets up towards 20, 25, if we're looking back at using and taking care of ourselves, or if there's something when you've had a stressful day, do something nice for yourself at the end of the day. Get out to the beach, go jump in the ocean. Go hit a couple golf balls, get out to your garden, do whatever you think might be able to help. Connect with your go-to person, whether it's your spouse, your cousin, your brother, your sister, your next door neighbor. Having that connection, great self-care. And then there's level 2, 40 to 60. And that's where we're going to utilize some coping skills. I'm going to show you those in a moment. Excuse me. And then the last are distress tolerance skills. This is the range where we're so stressed out. We immediately need to calm down. I'm going to give you some tools for that too. Right, so tools to help build resilience and to cope, right? That most important thing, helping ourselves and building that toolkit for what you need no matter what the stress level. So again, these self-care things are much like the protective factors that we went through earlier, right? Taking care of our mental wellness, doing these things on a regular basis. And you don't have to do all of them, but if you can pick out a couple of them that work for you, and that's what it is. What works for you? That's the most important thing. Whatever works for you is the best thing to do. And you can always change it up as well, okay? You can always change those up. So planning ahead, maybe sometime during the day when you can take a break. I know sometimes things happen and you can't, but if you realize that you need to do that, then go ahead. Taking care of your physical needs, like getting sleep again, taking breaks, eating healthy, not beating yourself up for not being your best. So many people just look to themselves, and when they make a mistake or when they screw up or they didn't do this or they didn't do that, they go, oh my God, how can I be so dumb? How can I be so stupid? What an idiot I am. Right? That negative self-talk's not going to get you anywhere. Flip the script on that. When you hear those words in your head, just stop and say, no, I know I screwed up. No, I'm not stupid. I'm not an idiot. I just made a mistake and I'm human. Some days we're only going to be 70%, and that's how it has to be. Other days we're 100%. Just remember, you're always doing your best for whatever level you're at. And keep that connection, as we were talking about earlier. Connect to that social support system, right? And know who your social support someone is. And it's okay to feel how you feel, right? It's okay to feel those things, but knowing how you feel in those situations, especially if it's stressful and in need, do what you do to have those self-care ideas to be able to change that, flip the script. And a lot of it is those protective factors. Okay, let's get into more of the nitty-gritty here. Coping skills. This is the 40 to 60 range, right? Coping skills, okay? When you're in that range, what you found out is sometimes the self-care skills don't keep working. So you need to do something else that's going to be better. Being mindful. It's called mindfulness. And what that is being present, being right here, right now. Not thinking about what happened yesterday and all the things that happened that were bad. Not thinking about tomorrow, what you might have to do tomorrow, but instead staying in today, staying in the moment. And I know when we do that, there's a lot of things about staying in the moment. There's a lot of things about, you know, the present that we might not like. You know, there's things that are just, you know, we wish we could change. But there's not many things you can change about what's going on around you in the world, right? But you can change the way you look at it. You can change your attitude. You can change how, whether you like it or not, it just is what it is. Accepting that it is what it is, and then doing something about it by trying to help yourself, right? By being in this mindfulness, and then maybe thinking about, some people like meditation. I do a walking meditation in the morning. I love to do the walking meditation in the morning. It's a great deal for me, right? I do it combined with walking and enjoying the sunrise, right? Whatever's going to work for you. If you can take 5 minutes to do a little meditation, or just wherever you're at, just stop and just take your shoes off, dig your toes into the ground, and just be grateful for being right here, right now. Gratitude is a great way to do it. And then what we also have is deep breathing. Deep diaphragmatic breathing is a huge, huge thing to be able to learn how to do. Some of you may be familiar with it. When we're super stressed, when we're in this area of towards more 60, maybe going into the 70 range, deep breathing is really good, because when we are really stressed, we have a stress hormone called cortisol that goes all the way through your body, tightens your muscles, you don't feel very good. When you do deep breathing, you're taking in oxygen, and the one thing that helps is clearing that oxygen clears all those stress hormones out of your body. So doing this for about 3 to 5 minutes, and I'm going to demonstrate how to do this. So put your top hand just right below your chest and your bottom right at the top of your stomach where your diaphragm is. And I'm just going to go through this with you. I'm going to ask you to take a deep breath with me and then hold it at the top and then slowly let it out. And we'll do it a couple times. Deep diaphragmatic breathing, bringing in that oxygen to lower the blood pressure, lower the stress. So take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Blow it out through your nose and your mouth. One more time. Take that deep breath in with your nose. Hold it. Hold it. Slowly let it out. One more time. Take that deep breath in. Hold it. Hold it. Slowly let it out. Anyone feel their shoulders start to dip? Just start to calm down a little bit. This is a great thing to do when you're starting to get just to that 60 level and maybe going into the 70. But deep diaphragmatic breathing, if you're stressed about anything, if you can take the time to just breathe deeply on it, you know, that is a perfect thing to do, right? That oxygen is going to clear that stress out of your bloodstream. That's how the science behind it works, you know, physically and mentally to help you, right? It's a great, great tool. Autogenic training. This is one of my favorite ones. This is like your mind telling your body what to do. Okay. This is a pretty cool one. So when we do autogenic training, right? What it is we take it where I'll be giving you a script and you just listen to me. So I just want you to calm down a little bit. Just put your arms, look, be relaxed, let them drop by you, and just listen to what I'm saying. Okay? Your right arm is calm and relaxed. Your right arm is heavy and relaxed. Excuse me. Your right arm is heavy and relaxed. I am calm and relaxed. My left arm is heavy and relaxed. My left arm is heavy and relaxed. My left arm is heavy and relaxed. I am calm and relaxed. My feet are calm and relaxed. My feet are heavy and calm and relaxed. My feet are heavy and calm and relaxed. I am relaxed. So you get a copy of this training. If you listen to the script and do it a few times, you're going to immediately calm down. I know even when I'm doing it, I can feel like blood rushing to my arms and feeling very, very good about it. Grounding is a great way to just calm down, and that's using sensory engagement to do it. So a great grounding tool is to just look at around you, right? And tell yourself, what are 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. You're getting your mind off of what's going on. Do it in a place where you feel good about it, whether it's outside or where you're ever comfortable. Go to that place where you get and you feel that way, because that's the most important thing. Grounding yourself, right? Taking some deep diaphragmatic breathing while you're doing it and thinking about it. It's a great combination where you use the gifts together. So you're being present, right? You're doing deep breathing and you're calming yourself down by having that sensory engagement with all of your senses. And it's a really, really powerful way to calm yourself. So these are all the calming skills and coping skills. Great during the 40 to 60 range. But of course, things can, feel more intense at times, right? When we get things that feel more intense at times, our body starts to go into that 60 to 100 range. And maybe we're shaking and we're just, we're not thinking clearly. And we can feel our heart rate going up. And we just, oh my God, I need to calm down. Some people, what they do when they get like that, and I know it might be different for farmers, but even first responders, if they're in the house or if they're a fireman, they can always go back to the gym there. Most of them have, and they can do some intense exercise. I'm not sure about first responders or whatnot, but you can do that. If you wake up feeling stressed or after work feeling that stressed, you do that intense exercise for about an hour, right? Everything's going to come down. Your muscles are going to relax. You're going to be deep breathing during the whole thing. You're going to be feeling very, very calm and relaxed. And this is what we want to get to. Your blood pressure is going to come back to normal, and that's our goal. Paced breathing is very similar to the deep diaphragmatic breathing like I talked about. If you do it on a 4 count, like square breathing with counting to 4, taking the breath in, holding it for 4 seconds, letting it out for 4 seconds, waiting for 4 seconds before you do the next breath. That is what Navy SEALs do. That's their way to calm down when they're out in the field and they're about to get into a tense situation. It's called 4x4 breathing. Or paced breathing is another way. In the 4x4, you can do it with 5s, like a triangle breathing. And just do 5 seconds taking it in, 5 seconds holding it, 5 seconds letting it out, and always through your nose and your mouth. Do these for about 3 to 5 minutes. You're going to notice everything's going to calm down. Paired muscle relaxation is similar to autogenic training, but what paired muscle relaxation is tightening your muscles really hard and then letting them go. Tighten them for 5-6 seconds, then letting it go. You can see my arm drop. And do it the same way as I did with the autogenic training. Do your right arm, your left arm, your legs. Do that, tightening, letting go. You'll feel the blood pressure and everything start to go down. The dive response I want to take a minute to talk about, because the dive response is super important. That's a way to immediately drop everything. If you're just so nervous, you just need to immediately calm down. So when we go underwater, we have a nerve in our nose that immediately shuts off. And because we're mammals, you ever notice how things slow down, right? Everything slows down underwater. What your body's telling you is that all the oxygen I have in my body is inside my body. So it goes back and protects your heart and your brain, okay? Everything calms down. So while we live in an island and we can maybe jump in the ocean, sometimes we can't utilize this. But if you're at home and you have access to your sink, you could get a washcloth and you could take that and put it ear to ear over your mouth and nose, and that tricks your nose and everything to say, okay, I'm slowing down, I'm underwater, and then the deep diaphragmatic breathing with it. Do that for 2-3 minutes. Everything's going to calm down. It's a great trap door to be able to immediately calm down, and you can help somebody else with that as well. These distress tolerance skills will really help you in that range. And the more we can manage our stress and anxiety, the better off we are. We want to build a support plan, right? Whatever makes us feel better, let's do. Whatever gives your life meaning, let's do. What has worked for you in the past, and that's a great way to look at things. Create your own list of resources, right? And call when you need, right? Because no matter what, we want you to feel good about yourself. Here's a list of all the resources that I'm going to put in here. The one I want to talk about is that UH Telehealth, okay? This is counseling over the internet, online, privately, just you and them. It's fully funded through 2026. So if you don't want to go and talk to somebody, right, in person, this is a way you can get help on your own and even without telling anybody else if you had that stigma that you didn't think you needed it. But please, please utilize it because this is a free service and it's actually part of the Rural Health Association that came up with it. So never, ever, never be afraid to ask for help. Always remember that asking for help is a sign of strength and not weakness, right? Because you deserve it. And so I wanted to make sure we have enough time. We do have just a couple seconds left for our last scenario. I did rush a little bit at the end. I'm sorry because it didn't manage the time as well as I thought I should. But I hope you got something out of that. And just remember, you can actually have somebody else do that with you with the autogenic training or the paired muscle relaxation and utilize the dive response. And you can find almost anything like this online as well. So I'm pasting in the last scenario. We're just going to stay in our group together because we have about 5 minutes left. So our last scenario, okay, no, you had one you were going to share, right, Tal?
Before we do the scenario, let's open up for questions. If there's any questions that
Okay.
anyone would potentially have that they would like to seek more support for.
Passive suicide. I think we have a lot of people, we know a lot of people that are maybe never suicidal, but are living passive suicide, lost purpose, struggling with hope. And so learning like tools to help those people, I think it would be neat in the future. But yeah, because I think there's a lot more people that you do are probably more passive suicide.
Mhm. Well, the passive suicidal, as you're talking about, Kim, I mean, a lot of those things that we talked about that are concerning passive suicide, I think keeping in connection with those people, resources will work pretty much if you have passive suicide or if you really have, suicidal ideation where you're going to make a plan. I mean, staying connected to the person, encouraging the connection with family and friends, right? The resources you can use any of those. Like if even if you're just experiencing passive suicide, you can call the suicide, lifeline. You can call 988 or you can call 800-753-6879 or do the texting, right? And say, I'm really haven't made a plan yet, and but I'm looking for more support. And they can give you several more information on maybe some things in your area where you might be able to get support. Or, I really do encourage, calling UH telehealth because there's no cost for that call. There's no cost for having that session. But keeping an eye on someone with passive suicidal ideation, and if you know that it's starting to get worse, right, then do your job just as a person you care about and say, this seems like it's been bothering you more, but there's some great self-care you can do that might help you with this. There's some great skills of this or calming skills. I went to this training the other day. I can share that with you. We could watch it together. And just trying to normalize that asking for help is a sign of strength. We got to get past that stigma. So thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that. And I hope that helps a little. Anybody else? Renee.
Danielle, can I just share a tip for like the passive suicide? And sometimes just making meaning and doing silly things, I know, generate some kind of meaning by, doing an activity, like joining a book club, like forming a habit of taking a break and go buy boba tea. I don't know, it could be something or like join your neighborhood cleaning group. So it doesn't always have to be, the traditional ones, just whatever that you can brainstorm and be there with the person, do it together. like, hey, like, do you want to volunteer at the food bank this weekend? Just like any kind of opportunity to connect, and then bringing more meaning and bringing more chances to connect, bringing more hope. Yeah, pick up rocks. Somebody said, yeah, pick up rocks and painting rocks. Like they did a really successful
Yeah.
one. Oh yeah, that's right, Danielle. You guys did that, or
We
Kauai
painted
did
rocks.
that, painting
Yeah, we
rocks and
painted
leave them
rocks and we put
around.
them all over. We put them all over the island here on Maui, and we just said there's always hope. We painted these rocks with just different messages. You are enough. We care about you. Tomorrow needs you. All these different little things. That's a great activity. And thank you, Renee. Being silly is really good. I mean, I just love to laugh, and sometimes I'll get silly with somebody, and get into that laughter where you can't stop laughing, and that's really good. But, going to karaoke, singing karaoke, whatever works, right? What is it that works for you? And let's find out something that might work for your friend. And I love the idea of doing it together. It's so, so powerful. And you're right. It's not necessarily the clinical things that you always need to do. It's just the simple daily things of life. And thank you so much, Renee, for reminding me of that. Really appreciate you. Any other comments, questions before we go? I know we're at the very end of everything. I like this collect teacups. That's a good one.
I have one thing to share too. I hope no kids listening, but if you're really close with your friends, one of the first thing I always, when they're really at the ends, I always like I tease them, get naked. If you're able, if they get naked, and that means that they're way to that point where you need to take action, and that's a sign right there. It's like they're already giving up completely. But if they get naked in front of you, you can take action right away. No one, it's gonna be hard to get naked in front of your friends, like really hard. But that changes his mind from anything that's in bothering them for that minute. Just get naked.
I hope you're getting naked in private with them.
I do.
If you did out in the park, I don't know. There could be-
Gardening naked is the best. You guys should try it. No problem with that.
Yeah. Getting out of your head. I mean, that's the perfect thing. When you get out of your head, when you help somebody, when you get naked, when you do whatever's going to work, right? When you help someone else, you get out of your head. You start to worry about them and not about yourself. So again, all those suggestions, volunteering at the food bank, doing something fun, playing a board game, whatever that might be. But utilize everything that you can in your skills. And I would just really, I want to honor you all and say thank you for coming to this. And I'm so glad that Tao asked me. I hope I've been a little bit of help tonight with giving you some more skills and whatnot. And I hope that it's been a fruitful training and something, you can listen back on and learn. And Tao can give you, when she sends it out, you can give them my email address if anyone wants to ever contact me individually. I'd be happy to see what I could do to help.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much. We will have more trainings next month, as well as our in-person session, the LOE on the 27th. Look in your email. I'll be sending that out probably next week, early next week. I don't want to send out too much information all at once, so I wait till we finish this one before I send out the next set of trainings. Thank you, everyone. And
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening. Do something nice for yourself tonight, because you deserve it.
Thank you. Thanks,
Many
Danielle.
blessings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Good night.
Yeah. Aloha.
Hey, thank you.
How
Oh,
should
yeah,
we
thank you. Good
remain
night.
on for like 2 more seconds, or
Yeah, I'll
second.
remain on.
Okay. You can actually click to remove folks
Yeah, I'm
that
gonna
didn't.
remove some folks here. Like, what is this?
Oh, wait, no, Mark is gone though.
Oh,
He's too quick.
he just took off already.
Yeah, he did. Well, he has to drive.
Okay.
But Danielle, that was wonderful. Like, I learned some things that I didn't even know, and that's hard to do.
Well, no, I hope it was good. I mean, and
No,
thanks,
it really
Tao, for
was.
reminding me to use the vignette and scenarios.
But we
'cause
might
it
want to
was
stop
powerful.
recording, so.
Oh, sorry. Let me